The banana you eat every morning to protect your blood pressure might be quietly working against you if you are past 60. The whole grain bread you switched to because every health article told you it was the smarter choice could be doing the opposite of what you think it is doing. And that can of soup sitting in your cupboard, the one labeled with vegetables and low in fat, may be one of the hardest things on your plate for your body to deal with. None of that means these foods are bad. It means something simpler and a lot more useful. After a certain age, your body starts playing by a different set of rules, and almost nobody tells you the moment the switch happens. There is one quiet number that tells you which rule book you are on. Once you know it, everything that follows in this video turns into a tool you can actually use. If you want health explained in plain, honest language, subscribe and tap like. It helps more people find this channel. The goal is 300,000 subscribers, and you are part of getting there. Practical checklists go out on my Telegram, so scan the QR code on screen. Let me start with the people this happens to, because it is almost never who you would expect. It is not the person eating fast food 3 times a day and ignoring every warning. It is the careful one, the one who reads the articles, switches to whole grains, adds more fruit, picks the soup that says low fat, and honestly believes they are doing everything right. These are the people who most often end up dealing with serious kidney trouble later in life. Not because they were careless, because they had good information meant for a different body, a body with kidneys working at full strength. And their kidneys had quietly stopped working at full strength years earlier, with no warning at all. That last part is the piece almost everyone misses, so let me explain it clearly. Your kidneys are not like your heart or your lungs. They do not hurt when they start to struggle. They do not swell up, they do not give you a fever, they do not send a sharp pain into your side to tell you something is wrong. Kidneys fail in silence. It happens over years, sometimes decades, and you feel completely fine the entire time. The only way to actually know how they are doing is a blood test. The number that matters is called eGFR. That stands for Estimated Glomerular Filtration Rate, and I will translate that into plain English right now. Inside each kidney, you have around 1 million tiny filtering units called glomeruli. Picture them as 1 million microscopic strainers, pulling waste out of your blood all day, every day, without you ever noticing. Your eGFR is simply a score for how well that whole filtering system is running. Above 60 is considered normal. Below 60, doctors start calling it chronic kidney disease, and that just means the filters are working at reduced power day after day on a long downward slope. Here's what makes that so easy to miss. Research consistently shows that by the time a person reaches 70, they can lose somewhere between 1/4 and nearly 1/3 of their filtering power and feel absolutely nothing along the way. No symptom, no signal. Just a number on a lab report quietly sliding downward while everything on the surface looks fine. There is a case that turns up in kidney clinics often enough that specialists recognize it on sight. Picture a woman named Carol, 71 years old, a retired school teacher. She walked every morning. She took every medication exactly as prescribed. She never smoked. By every outside measure, the model patient. On a routine blood test, her doctor noticed her creatinine was slightly high. Creatinine is just a waste product your muscles make and your kidneys normally clear out. So when it climbs above normal, it is a quiet hint that the kidneys are not keeping up. The doctor ordered the Fuller test, the eGFR, and it came back at 52. Already under 60. Already what doctors call stage 3 chronic kidney disease. The advice she got was the advice almost everyone in her position gets. Watch your diet and come back in 6 months. So Carol went home and did exactly what a thoughtful person does. She started researching. She traded white bread for whole grain bread and bran cereal. She added bananas and avocados because every source she found said potassium is good for blood pressure and good for your blood vessels. She started making canned tomato soup for lunch since it was easy, low in fat, with vegetables right there in the name. On her morning walks, she sipped a sports drink to replace electrolytes. Every single one of those choices looked smart on its own. Every one of them came from a reputable place. And 6 months later, her eGFR had dropped from 52 to 38 in half a year. She had slid from one part of stage 3 into a worse one. That is not just a smaller number. At that point, waste products start building up in the blood that are genuinely hard on the heart and the blood vessels. Everything she did to take care of herself had pushed her in the wrong direction because nobody had told her the rules had changed. So let me tell you why they change. Why ordinary healthy food can turn into a problem for your kidneys, specifically after 60. Starting at around age 40, your kidneys lose roughly 1% of their filtering power every year. That is normal. It is just aging, and there is no way to stop it. But do the simple math, and it means that by 70, most people are running on noticeably less filtering capacity than they had as a young adult, without a single symptom to mark the loss. They simply have less margin, less reserve, and that is the exact moment when what you eat every single day starts to matter in a completely different way, because the workload on your kidneys is the same as ever, but the engine handling it has quietly gotten smaller. To really make this stick, you need to understand 4 things that happen inside the body. Skip these, and the food list is just a list you will forget by tomorrow. Understand them, and you will never look at your plate the same way. The first one is phosphorus building up. One of your kidney's jobs is clearing phosphorus out of your blood. When filtering slows down, phosphorus starts to accumulate. The medical name for that is hyperphosphatemia, which literally just means too much phosphorus in the blood. And this is not a vague, far-off concern. Nephrology research, and nephrology is simply the branch of medicine that deals with the kidneys, has tied long-term high phosphorus directly to 2 things: faster breakdown of kidney tissue and calcification of the blood vessels. Calcification means calcium gets deposited in the walls of your arteries, turning them stiff and brittle instead of soft and flexible. That stiffening is a real, traceable path to heart attacks and strokes in people with kidney trouble. So phosphorus is not just a kidney issue, it is a heart issue too. Now here is the part that almost nobody knows, and it really does change how you should read a food label. The most dangerous phosphorus is not the kind found naturally in food. It is inorganic phosphorus, the phosphate salts that get added to processed foods as preservatives and flavor boosters. The difference in how your body handles them is enormous. Natural phosphorus, the kind built into real food, gets absorbed at something like 40 to 60%. The added inorganic kind gets absorbed at 90 to nearly 100%. So 2 foods can list the exact same amount of phosphorus on the label, and one can hit your kidneys with nearly double the real load, depending only on where that phosphorus came from. And the label will not tell you which is which. You just see the word phosphorus on the nutrition panel, with no way to know how hard that particular phosphorus is going to push on your kidneys. The second thing is potassium getting out of balance. Healthy kidneys keep the potassium in your blood inside a very tight window. Potassium is an electrolyte, and your heart muscles simply cannot beat properly without the right amount of it. Too little and the rhythm goes wrong in one direction. Too much and it goes wrong in the other. When kidney function drops, extra potassium stops getting cleared and starts piling up in the blood. That state is called hyperkalemia, which is high potassium. The American Heart Association has clearly documented that high potassium in people with kidney disease is one of the leading causes of dangerous, life-threatening heart rhythm problems. The electrical signal that fires off every heartbeat gets distorted by the excess, and the heart literally starts to misfire. And here is the cruel twist. The foods that have been recommended to older adults for decades for their heart and for their blood pressure, foods like bananas, avocados, oranges, dried apricots, and spinach, are some of the highest potassium foods there are. For a person with healthy kidneys, they are genuinely good for you. For a person whose eGFR has dropped below 60, those very same foods can tip into a real emergency. Here is a pattern that shows up in cardiology and kidney records more than most people would ever guess. Think of a woman named Linda, 74, who became very focused on protecting her heart after her husband had a heart attack. Avocado every day, potassium supplements she read about online, spinach in everything. Her chart already noted reduced kidney function. It was right there in her file. But in a 15-minute visit centered on her blood pressure and cholesterol, the conversation simply never reached her diet. One morning she woke up with a pounding heartbeat, weakness, and dizziness. At the emergency room, her potassium came back at 6.4. The safe ceiling sits around 5. The team brought her through it, and when you look at what happened, it is painfully clear. She was protecting her heart, and in doing so, she was straining it. The third thing is protein overload. Every time you eat a big load of protein, your kidneys have to crank up their filtering speed to handle the leftovers of breaking that protein down, mainly a waste product called urea, along with related ammonium compounds. In healthy kidneys, that is fine. There is reserve power to draw on. In kidneys that are already running near their limit, there is no reserve to draw on. Every big protein load becomes work at the very edge of capacity, and doing that over and over, meal after meal, gradually wears down the filtering units themselves. There is even a name for it, glomerular hyperfiltration. Studies from the kidney research community have shown a direct link between high protein intake and faster decline in eGFR in people who already have some kidney impairment. This one matters most for a very specific group. The people who have been told, after 60, to eat more protein so they do not lose muscle. That advice is completely correct up to a point. Holding on to muscle as you age is genuinely important. But the moment your eGFR drops below 60, the standard protein advice stops working the same way. It is still right for one situation and quietly harmful in another. Primary care sees a version of this one all the time. Picture a man named James, 68, a retired veteran, still strong and active. His doctor told him to bump up his protein to protect his muscle. So he did. Protein shakes, chicken breast at every meal, protein bars for snacks. His eGFR had been sitting at 54 for 2 years, already under 60, but nobody connected those two facts to each other. Over 14 months, his eGFR slid from 54 to 41, a full step down while he followed medical advice to the letter. How was I supposed to know the rules were different is the kind of question people in his position ask. And the honest answer is, they had no way to know. That is the entire reason a video like this exists. The fourth thing is sodium overload. Sodium is the main ingredient in ordinary table salt. Normally, your kidneys handle it smoothly, flushing the excess out in your urine. As kidney function fades, that ability fades with it. Sodium starts to accumulate. Water follows the sodium and gets held in the body. Your blood volume goes up, your blood pressure goes up, and high blood pressure is a direct blow to the tiny blood vessels inside your kidneys, those same filters that are already working at their limit. It becomes a loop that feeds itself. The kidneys clear sodium less well, so pressure rises. So the pressure damages the kidneys more, so they clear sodium even worse. The United States Centers for Disease Control points to sodium as one of the main dietary drivers that speeds kidney disease along. And here is a number that should stop you in your tracks. A standard can of soup holds somewhere between 800 and 1200 milligrams of sodium per serving. The whole daily limit for a person with kidney disease is around 1500 to 2000 milligrams. So one bowl of soup at lunch can burn through half your sodium budget before you have eaten anything else all day. This next situation is well documented among people going through cancer treatment. Imagine a man named Walter, 79, going through chemotherapy. His cancer team did exactly the right thing for their job. They focused on keeping his calories up while he was being treated. Canned soups, packaged ready meals, sports drinks for electrolytes on the rough days. Nobody flagged that his eGFR was already at 48. By the time treatment ended and he came in for a check, his eGFR had fallen to 29. That is stage 4, one step away from dialysis. Dialysis, in case you have never had it explained plainly, is a machine that cleans your blood for you when your kidneys can no longer do it. 3 times a week, 4 hours at a stretch, tethered to the equipment. The phosphate additives in the canned food and the heavy sodium in the ready meals had stacked up month after month, and nobody had connected the dots. People in his situation almost always say the same thing afterward. They wish they had known sooner. There is one more version of this worth sitting with because it shows how the gap opens up even when everyone is doing their job well. Here is what happens whenever 2 good specialists treat the same person without ever seeing each other's notes. Picture a woman named Susan, 65, just diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Her doctor did everything right and sent her to a skilled dietitian. That dietitian built a careful, well-designed eating plan for a diabetic, high in fiber, whole grains, potassium-rich vegetables, lean protein. exactly what the diabetes guidelines call for. The trouble was that Susan's eGFR was 55, and the dietitian had no way of knowing that. 3 foods on that excellent plan, whole grain bread, lentils, and bananas, are precisely the ones a kidney specialist would have told her to cut back on. The dietitian made no mistake at all. The gap was simply that one expert could not see what the other expert knew. Right care for one condition, quietly speeding up another. So now let me get specific. Here are the 4 foods that most often damage kidneys in people over 60. Not because they are evil on their own, but because they carry exactly the load that weakened kidneys handle worst. First, processed and deli meats. Ham, bologna, salami, hot dogs, sausages, any lunch meat, anything cured or canned. There are 2 problems packed into these at once. The first is the staggering amount of sodium. A 2-ounce serving of bologna or ham can carry 500 to 600 milligrams of sodium. 2 sandwiches and a third of your entire daily limit is gone on a single snack. The second problem is the phosphate preservatives. This is where that nearly fully absorbed inorganic phosphorus most often hides. Look at the ingredient list and watch for anything with phosphate in the name, like sodium phosphate, diphosphate, triphosphate, or phosphoric acid. The National Kidney Foundation specifically calls out phosphate additives in processed meats as one of the biggest and least recognized risks for people with kidney disease. So every time you eat a slice of deli meat or a hot dog, you are hitting your kidneys 2 ways at once, with sodium and with phosphorus. A double punch. Second, high potassium fruits. Let me be crystal clear because this gets misunderstood constantly. I am not telling you fruit is bad. I am talking about one specific situation, which is when your eGFR is already below 60. In that situation, certain fruits deliver so much potassium that your slowed down kidneys cannot clear it fast enough. Bananas, oranges, tangerines, kiwi, avocado, dried apricots, prunes, all of those are good for you when your kidneys are healthy. All of them have been documented in kidney nutrition research as drivers of high potassium when kidney disease is present. And the answer is not to give up fruit. The answer is to swap. Apples, blueberries, grapes, strawberries, pears, watermelon, all of those are far lower in potassium and completely safe for weakened kidneys. You lose none of the vitamins, none of the antioxidants. You just pick the sources your kidneys can handle without strain. Third, and brace yourself because this one genuinely shocks people. Whole grain bread and bran products. I know how that sounds. Whole grains have been sold to all of us for decades as the cornerstone of healthy eating. And for people with healthy kidneys, that is completely fair. The fiber, the B vitamins, the slow release carbohydrates are real benefits. But whole grain bread and bran cereals carry significantly more phosphorus than white bread does. Renal nutrition guidance from the National Kidney Foundation actually names whole grain products as a category to limit once kidney disease is in the picture. This is one of the hardest things for people to hear because so many of them switched from white bread to whole grain on purpose as an upgrade for their health and unknowingly added to the phosphorus load on their kidneys. So here is the single most counterintuitive thing in this entire video, and it is solid kidney diet guidance, not a gimmick. When your kidney function is reduced, plain white bread and white rice can actually be the better choice over whole grain. That is exactly the kind of thing worth raising with your doctor the moment you learn your eGFR. Fourth, canned and ready-made soups and quick packaged meals. This whole category is dangerous in 2 directions at once: sodium and phosphate additives. As I mentioned, a standard can of soup runs 800 to 1200 milligrams of sodium per serving. And against a daily ceiling of 1500 to 2000, one lunch eats half your budget. And this is not just the soups that obviously taste salty. Tomato, split pea, chicken noodle, canned stews, all of them sit right in that range. The Centers for Disease Control names canned soups as one of the single biggest sources of sodium in the American diet. Add the phosphate preservatives on top and you have a product that strikes your kidneys 2 ways with every bowl. But here is the good news, because there genuinely is some. This one is fixable. A homemade soup built on a no-salt broth is completely doable. Or you can look for canned options labeled at 140 milligrams of sodium or less per serving. Those exist, and reading the label is all it takes to find them. A quick word about age, because it shapes all of this. After about 55, the natural decline in kidney function picks up speed noticeably. That stretch of life is exactly when most people first discover their eGFR number, and often they are already at stage 3, sometimes further. I would genuinely like to understand who is watching. Drop your age in the comments. It helps me pick topics more precisely and dig into the situations that actually fit your age group. So now, what do you actually do about all this? Here are 7 clear steps. Step 1. At your next appointment, ask specifically for an eGFR test. Not just creatinine, but eGFR. Write this sentence down right now. I want to check my eGFR. That is all it takes. Any doctor who hears that will understand the request and either order the test or explain why it is not needed in your case. The point is simply to ask. Step 2. If your eGFR comes back under 60, ask for a referral to a kidney dietitian. Not just any dietitian, but one trained specifically in kidney nutrition. That distinction is everything. A general dietitian will build your plan from the standard tables meant for healthy people. A kidney dietitian builds the plan around your actual numbers, your eGFR, your potassium, your phosphorus. Step 3. Start reading ingredient lists. Any word with phosphate in it, like sodium phosphate, potassium diphosphate, triphosphate, or phosphoric acid, is that inorganic phosphorus your body absorbs almost completely. Those are the products to cut back on or skip. Step 4. Trade high potassium fruits for low potassium ones. A banana becomes an apple. An orange becomes a handful of blueberries. Avocado becomes a small drizzle of olive oil for your healthy fats. Dried apricots and prunes become fresh strawberries or grapes. You are not giving up fruit. You are just spreading the load somewhere your kidneys can carry it. Step 5. Move from canned vegetables to fresh or frozen ones with no salt added. And if you do use canned, rinse them under running water before you eat them. That simple rinse removes up to 40% of the sodium. A small action with a real payoff. Step 6. Ask a pharmacist to look over all your supplements and multivitamins. Plenty of standard multivitamins contain potassium and phosphorus at doses that are perfectly safe for healthy adults, but a problem for someone with reduced kidney function. A pharmacist can scan the labels in a few minutes and point out anything worth raising with your doctor. It takes 5 minutes and it can matter a great deal. Step 7. Bring a 1-week food diary to your next appointment. Not an app, not a spreadsheet on your phone, a sheet of paper with what you actually ate each day. That gives your doctor a concrete picture of your real diet and turns a rushed 15-minute visit into a productive conversation instead of an exchange of vague generalities. Let me close out a few questions people always ask. The first one, how do you bring up eGFR with your doctor without seeming like you are second guessing them? You are not. You are showing up as a prepared patient. Just say something simple like, I have been reading about how kidney function changes with age. Could we check my eGFR at my next blood draw? Any thoughtful doctor welcomes that. An engaged patient is not a burden. It makes the job easier. The second question, if your eGFR is only a little below normal, does it even matter yet, or can you relax for now? It matters, in proportion. An early stage does not call for the same restrictions as a late one, but it does mean the trend is already there and already moving. Small changes made early in your diet, in controlling your blood pressure, in avoiding medications that can be hard on the kidneys, do far more good than big changes made too late. The third question, can changing your diet actually reverse kidney damage? The honest answer, outside of the very earliest stages, is no. The filtering units that have died do not grow back. The goal is not to recover what is gone. It is to protect what remains. People who make the right changes in time often stabilize at a level that lets them avoid dialysis for years, even decades. That is not a consolation prize. For most people, that is the entire difference between a normal life and 3 trips a week to a machine that cleans their blood. So here is where this leaves you. Find out your eGFR. That one blood test is the whole foundation. If the number comes back under 60, treat the 4 foods we covered as the first place to look. Ease up on processed and deli meats, swap your highest potassium fruits for gentler ones, rethink the whole grain everything habit, and get honest about how much sodium is hiding in canned and packaged soups. Read labels for anything with phosphate in the name. Ask for a kidney dietitian, not just any dietitian. And walk into your next appointment as a prepared partner, with a week of real meals written on paper, ready for a useful conversation instead of a rushed one. None of this is about fear. It is about timing. Because small changes made early protect far more than big changes made late. Share this with someone over 60 you care about, because this is exactly the kind of conversation that is easy to keep putting off. And remember that everything here is general information, not a plan built for you. Your own body, your own numbers, and your own history deserve a real conversation with a doctor who knows them. And that conversation will always be worth more than anything you watch on a screen. If this gave you something you can use, subscribe and leave a like. That is how more people find clear, honest health information. 300,000 subscribers is the goal, and you just helped get us closer. Grab the checklist on my Telegram, and the QR code is right there on screen.